everybody and welcome back. My name is Sparks and this is Gamemode 4, the series where we create command block modules that change and modify the vanilla gameplay experience. So today's module is something that I've been thinking about and dreading about doing for quite a long time, and I've finally done it. It's a custom crafting system for Gamemode 4. I'm aware that I'm not the first person to come up with a custom crafting system, but this one I've specifically designed so that other modules can add recipes to it. So this is the custom crafting module, and it doesn't actually add any recipes to your world. All it does is actually it handles the creation and destruction of custom crafters, and it also powers the clocks on these guys. You see this wall is just flickering. That's being powered by that. Using armor stands. If I just quickly show them for you, there are hidden armor stands sitting on top of these called CC Crafter, like that. And anywhere in the world where a CC Crafter is placed, it'll try and set a redstone block underneath it. So that's this way. These expansion packs, which can be downloaded and installed separately, however you want to use them, can be. They don't have to have their own clock. Basically, they just run off the clock here. So that's the way it works. You've got your main module, which just adds custom crafters, and then you can add expansion modules, which are either solely responsible for recipes, like these, add effects to the custom crafter, like this one over here, which I've turned off just for the moment, or are modules unto themselves that just require custom crafting, where sort of recipes are added via that. So today I've got two separate expansion packs. You can download these and using the Gamemode for one click install them into your world, and I'll sort of go through the recipes and then sort of explain a little bit about how it works. So to create a custom crafter, you simply place a dropper down on the ground, just to demonstrate that you can use these anywhere in the world and as many as you like. I'll just have two going at once, and you drop a crafting table on top when there's a certain recipe inside. I forgot to get the ingredients for the recipe. I thought I was prepared. Apparently not. I need 16 of these to make 2 custom crafters and 2 redstone dust. My apologies. Okay, so to create the custom crafter, you simply place a dropper recipe inside a dropper, like that, and then throw a crafting table on top. Oops, I missed. Beautiful. There we go, custom crafter. So this it's cleared the recipe outside of itself. It's consumed those items and it's been renamed custom crafter. We can do the same thing over here, and these custom crafters work completely independent of each other. They won't conflict. People can craft at the same time. It works in multiplayer. I'm on a server right now. So let's get started with some of the recipes. So the first one that I did was compressed ice. Now you'll notice that all of these recipes will play a sound, and there are different sounds depending on the recipe. So that has a sort of a pistony collapsy sound. It compresses into 4 ice. You can compress flint into gravel. Sandstone of all types will turn into sand, like so. And sandstone slabs will turn into 2 sand because they're half a block. You can also turn sand into red sand using red dye. There we go, we've got the compressing sound again. There were block breaking sounds for those. What else can you do? You can take slime balls and put 8 string around them to make cobwebs. You can create podzol using leaves. You can mix leaves. So if I take acacia and jungle... you can't mix... Never mind. There are some leaves you can mix. Because the acacia and dark oak were released later, they have a different ID. But I could mix like oak and birch if I wanted to. Anyway, you can use podzol. You can do the same thing with the newer leaves, the acacia. And you can also make horse armor. So let me just do that. This is the recipe for horse armor. The same for the gold horse armor. And the diamond horse armor last of all. There we go. You hear there's an anvil sound. So you can create a custom sound for every single crafting recipe, which is pretty cool. There's also an expansion pack over here, which I'll just turn on quickly, which adds... This is an example of how you can add effects, sound effects, animations to your custom crafter. So you'll see when I get close to them, they will rotate. In this case, only the closest will ever spin. It's kind of interesting. And... yeah, you know, you can do this sort of thing. You can create your own module. There will be a tutorial tomorrow or the day after this video is released, showing you how to create your own pack of recipes, or how to connect to that clock. So I'm going to turn that off because it annoys me. So there are two limitations with this. Oh, actually, I'll just show you. That was all the recipes from here. This is the recipes for the, what are they called? Records. So I've got a couple of dies in here, which I was just storing here for safekeeping. The general gist is that you take flint and you put a die inside, and you get a record, and it plays a note noise. It uses dies that are relevantly coloured to the circle in the middle, with the exception of the ender eye for the 2 shades of green one, just because I couldn't think of anything else that was sort of 2 shades of green, and coal for the broken record. So let me just show you quickly a limitation of this. So the first limitation is that you cannot do 2 recipes at once. You can't. I can't put 2 dandelion dies in here and get 2 records. To do this, I'd have to have a second command block checking for 2 in every slot. So that's a bit of a limitation. You can, for instance, if you wanted to make recipes for 32 and 64 of each recipe, that's an option, but it is a limitation. So if I were to take half of these away, the recipe would then work. The other limitation is blank slots. The game is not very good at detecting when there's a blank slot, by which I mean detecting nothing. So let's take the horse armor recipe as an example. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 horse armor and a piece of leather. Now if we take our 5 horse armor and we put our leather down, where's our leather gone? There it is. Say I put something up here which shouldn't go there, in a blank slot, and then complete the recipe, it will still craft it, because it doesn't. There's no easy way of telling whether that is actually blank and making that a requirement. So it's not a huge setback, because it's your fault if you put random stuff in a recipe that isn't needed, but it is a bit of a shame that it doesn't stop the recipe from working. So be considerate of that when creating blank recipes, or recipes with blank slots in them. So that's basically the recipes that I've created for this. And let me show you how the recipes work. So over here, this is basically simply responsible for tracking command blocks and on top of droppers with the correct recipe. It's responsible for placing the changing this into a custom crafter. By the way, if I break this, if I were in survival, I would get the dropper back, and you also get the crafting table back, and the crafting table has a little bit of lore, just why not? It's a slightly damaged workbench. It still works as a normal workbench, I just thought I'd put a bit of text on it. So that's mainly what this is responsible for, breaking and creating custom crafters. And it also causes these to flash, so it's basically, every now and again, it set blocks a redstone block under any armor stand called CC Crafter. So the way this works is every recipe has 2 command blocks. I'll explain exactly sort of an easy way of setting this up in a later video, but the basic idea is the recipe for the recipe for the recipe goes in the top with a certain execute command before it. So if I just show you quickly, you can see that this is the ice and snow into pack dice. So you can see here it's listing flint. Sorry about that, I just realised that the ice and the flint ones were mislabeled. This is the flint, this is the ice. So if I just go in and quickly show you, can see it's basically got a list of all the blocks that need to be in it in a certain order. So it goes ice, 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 that's the bottom row. Then we'd expect 1 more ice, and then over here you can see the snow that goes in the middle. The good news is you don't need to type that up by hand. There's a trick which I will show you in my tutorial video using command blocks and dispensers that lets you get that recipe really easily. And then below it, basically you just put the result of the recipe, the final item you want. So here you can see we get packed ice with a quantity of 4. Again, you don't need to type that out yourself, which is quite handy. So I think that's more or less it. The way this works is through success count. It's a little trick that I recently learned from Dragnoz, which basically lets you link whether a command was successful or not on an entity to a scoreboard value. So every time I throw every time this clock pulses, this is basically doing a test for. So it's saying it's on all Gamemode 4 custom crafters, it's doing a test for block and then it's checking for a dropper at its location with this exact recipe inside. If it succeeds, then because I've used this stat command, which is somewhere in this mess of command blocks, I think it's this one, yeah, stats entity type equals armor stand, name equals custom crafter, and it's basically setting the success count of that armor stands to the Gamemode 4 crafting scoreboard. So if it tests for a dropper at its location with 9 flint, then it gets a score of 1. Otherwise, it gets a score of 0. And this recipe down here is basically saying that for all armor stands with a crafting, called custom crafter, with a Gamemode 4 crafting score of 1 or more, it will then put the recipe inside that block. So that way, even if 2 separate custom crafters are testing at the same time, they will have different scores, and therefore their recipes won't get confused. And this is the way that I've made it very, very safely multiplayer compatible. So if you want to learn more about stats, if I remember, I'll link to Dragnoz's video about stats, because it's very interesting. He makes poisoned water with it, and it's a really useful technique for cutting down on command blocks. And so this module over here is literally just responsible for the placing and creating of these custom crafters. If I break this a second, you can see it creates this sort of breaking animation and all of that. So thank you very much, as always, for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and a special thank you to everybody who helped out during the live stream, especially Spider Robot Man, Siberian Hat, and Bluefire, because you had some really good ideas for how to make this custom crafter very integratable, and some of the features and recipes as well that I included. So those 4 things are all separately available to download from the Gamemode 4 website, which you can get to via the video description. You can download the custom crafter, either of the 2 expansion recipe modules, and the animation module, which causes the sound effect and the rotation of the command of the custom crafter. So hopefully you'll enjoy that, and you can expect to see Gamemode 4 modules coming out soon with those with that sort of recipe integration. They'll require the custom crafter base module to work. Until next time, thank you for watching. I'll see you then. Bye.